everybody. Welcome to another episode of Marketing Mondays. Hopefully you guys are off to a great start to your week. I am here with my co-host, Ronnie West. So I appreciate you guys all tuning in today. We've got some interesting questions that have come in over the last week, as well as just some talking points, some conversation items. So hopefully you guys are going to enjoy the show. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Ronnie. How's your weekend, Ronnie?
It was a great weekend. Little guy got out on his bike for the first time for me.
Nice.
So it was a lot of fun. So always fun to have some family time and relax and get away for a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, I feel like there's a lot that's been going on in the world of marketing. I feel like there's always things that are going on, but I do feel like there's a lot of changes that are going on. I know I've been spending a lot of time in the last couple of weeks, even working on some Google AdWords campaigns with some clients, and there's just been some changes that have been happening there. Obviously, the Google Ads verification that we've been going through with all of our dealers, it seems like there's always something going on. I know there's a couple different things that we're going to talk about today, so I'm going to go ahead and just let you – I know you got a couple questions that came in, so let's just kick it off and just see where it goes from there.
Yeah, so kind of going off the topics that we've kind of been hitting on with AI, somebody wrote in, I understand the concept of AI. I understand the concepts of AI, but how can I use AI on a day-to-day basis? Like what tools are out there for people to use that make sense as far as yes, we know what ChatGPT is, but obviously there's a few other tools. What else can be used?
Yeah, I actually just was talking with a group the other day about this, and I actually came up with like 5 tools that the average shop could utilize to help, for different things. Because here's the thing. I mean, all of us kind of know about AI, but a common question that comes up is like, okay, well, what do I do with it? Like, how do I actually use it for my business? And I came up with a couple tools that people can utilize that I think makes sense. One is ChatGPT or Bard, whichever one you want to use with regard to that. And I think we all kind of have a feeling for that. But I think a lot of people don't understand. You could ask it to help you write an eye-catching headline for a post you want to do or things like that. You can ask it to, it will take what it knows about things that have been responded to positively online and write a post that maybe is better than what you could come up with yourself, or just give you inspiration. I mean, I feel like those platforms, it's not so much about just copying and pasting. It's about giving you inspiration that then you could take that and be like, I really like that, or I really like this. But if I combine them together, I really like the way that comes out. And so I feel like ChatGPT and Bard can help you in a variety of ways. Or just asking you could just ask it questions, use that for inspiration to create a post, create a blog article on your website, send out an email. Like you could ask it to create an email, anything like that.
Yeah.
Some of the other tools, and I know, like I said, I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with each one of these, but DAL E2, that's DALL-E-2, that's an image generator from AI. So you literally can type in a description of what you want, and it will, out of thin air, create an image that is based on what you've typed in, like the description. You could say, I want, Super Mario, throwing a flaming dart at, something, you know what I mean? Well, you could just type something in, and it will literally create an image based on what you've typed in, what you've asked it to do.
I've noticed Canva does that too with some stuff. It's a lot more vague and it's not as specific, but it is one of those features that's within Canva if people are looking at or playing around with that already.
Yeah. So I think that, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Canva part of it is maybe being driven by DAL too. They're integrating that. But my point is, you could create an image that, you might want to have that, just something that's interesting, something that's maybe even going on in your town that you can kind of create a fun or an interesting offshoot of, but the image doesn't exist, but you could use this to create something that might catch people's eyes and utilize that. Great tool. That's DALL-E2. Lovo AI, another great tool. It basically allows you to type something in and then choose what type of voice you wanted, and it will actually speak based on what you've typed in to create like a voice message. So you could utilize that for, again, I'm trying to boil this down to like how a small business might be able to use it. Maybe you don't like the way your voice sounds. Maybe somebody at your shop, you don't like the way you could use it to create a voice message for your phone system. You could use it to create a voiceover for a video or something like that. If you want to have something on your thing and you don't want it to be your voice, you don't like your voice, or you don't think your voice resonates with people, you could utilize Lobo.ai to type in what you want it to say and then have that create the actual voice. So again, another tool, another way you could utilize AI in your local business. Another one is Images AI. That allows you to edit images, remove backgrounds, all types of different things utilizing AI. We talked a little bit about that when you were utilizing it even within Photoshop. I think Images AI is just a tool that people can use to modify images they currently have it remove certain things, do things like that. I think that could be a great tool for people to use. And again, I'm trying to really boil this down to tangible tools that people can use. The last one is Fireflies. It's basically a meeting transcription tool. So if you sit down somewhere, open it up, put it down on the table. If you're talking to a client, you're talking to somebody like that, it will literally transcribe what's being said into like an ongoing transcript. So, some people might be able to use this, some people might not. But if you ever have had a situation where a client has said, you told me X and Y and Z, and you're like, man, that's not what I said. This might be an interesting tool to just be like, okay, as you're reaching the summary with a client, you just want to say, okay, I just want to make sure we're both on the same page. We agreed to do this, and then we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. Might be an interesting time to light up Fireflies, let it transcribe that last bit of the conversation, and then you could even attach it in certain CRMs and things like that. So if there is ever a question about what was agreed to, what was not agreed to, you now actually have a transcript of exactly what was said in that conversation. So
I was gonna say I think sometimes it's used as well. Obviously, if you're running a brick and mortar shop, it might not work out. But if you're on a podcast or something, you could then transcribe that and use it as a blog article, or
Absolutely.
somehow switch that around in some way that you could rewrite kind of the whole conversation out, but you'd have this text that you could essentially use as more content. So that's, I know, something a lot of people do where they take a video podcast like this, they turn it into an audio podcast, transcribe it, and also use it as an article. So it's just another way to have more content.
No, that's actually a really good point, because I wasn't even really thinking along those lines, but you're absolutely right. I was thinking more like, okay, how does a shop owner or somebody that works in the industry, and I'm thinking to myself, man, if you had $1 for every time there's been a misunderstanding with a client, and you kind of lean back on that, the client's always right, and you can't really prove that wasn't said. They can't really prove that it was said. This could be something you could utilize, especially if it's something that ends up being like a higher dollar ticket, or even like if you're doing paint protection film, let's say, on a car, you're doing a full wrap on a car, and you're under agreement with like what's going to be covered, what's not going to be covered. How, are you going to wrap the edges? Are you going to cut the film at the edge? Is it going to be a wrap, or is it going to be right up to the edge? All those different types of things. If you have that transcript of saying this is exactly what we're agreeing to, it's going to put you in a position where you can say, listen, I know for a fact we talked about that area not being covered, or we were going to wrap the edges, or we were only going to go to the edge, or whatever the case may be. It gives you a little bit of a leg to stand on versus just saying, that's not what we talked about, and the other person saying that is what we talked about, and then you're kind of in an impasse. So again, those are just 5 tools I shared with a group that I get together with on a weekly basis, that were really interested in AI, but like, okay, how do I actually use this for my business? It's cool. It's got the party trick element to it, like, but now we're getting beyond the party trick element into like, okay, how do I actually use it for my business? And here's a couple examples.
No, I think that's the key for everybody. Like, one, understanding it, but how do you use it within the context of whatever you're trying to do, whether it's your marketing business or anything like that. once you can have a tool, you can have a wrench, but you don't know how to use it. That can be the trouble with a lot of this stuff. So another question that I get a lot, just because I deal with a bunch of social media stuff, is what's the biggest difference between Reels and or TikTok and posting just regular photos throughout their stream? So I'll let you start just because I'm offering the question up.
Sure. So the big thing to remember with regard to a regular post, let's just talk about Meta. Like, I mean, TikTok, Instagram Reels and TikTok are going to essentially be the same. But to just keep it simple, when you do a post on your page, only the people that follow your page or like your page are going to see that post unless they share it out. Unless you have your page set up as public, which most people would, and somebody decides that they love it enough that they're going to share it out. Then you get the exponential element of it going out to everybody they shared it to, things like that. However, that you're kind of limited to people that follow your page, where they're going to send it, which sort of really limits brand new businesses because oftentimes they don't have a lot of people that are following their page. So you want to reach a broader audience, but you've only got 100 people following your page. It becomes a little bit difficult. So when you do a regular post, and by that I mean an image, a video, a text post, whatever, the only people that are going to see that are the people that either follow or like your page. That's it. When you do a reel, whether that's in Facebook or in Instagram, what that does is it takes the elements involved in that reel and it shows it to anybody that Meta deems or TikTok deems may be interested in that content. So if you've showed an inclination to liking content about, high-end automobiles or whatever, and this reel is about high-end automobiles, you may see that reel. So it exposes you to a lot of people that potentially can see your content that don't like your page, maybe have never even heard of your company before, but now are seeing your reel. I guess the downside of that, if you would consider it a downside, is it's not limited to the geographic area in which you operate. So you could be in Omaha, Nebraska and share a reel that's about something, outdoorsy or whatever, and somebody in Phoenix, Arizona could be seeing your reel based on the fact that their viewing habits indicate that they like consuming outdoor-oriented content. So Meta is going to show them the content even though they're not anywhere close to where you're at. So the benefit, I would say, is if you're trying to build an audience, if you're trying to build what you're doing and you're trying to reach new people, I would say you're much better off to go more the path of Reels because you're going to reach new people. Even if it's broader audience that isn't in your geographic area, you're going to continually be reaching new people, where when you do just regular posts, even if it's a video post or a story or anything like that, the only people that are ever going to see that are people that already are aware of your company or already are following your page.
Yeah, and especially it shows up really easy if you use TikTok. So essentially, I'm glad that Facebook finally came out with their Reels just because it gave you another avenue to kind of tap into people who are on the app quite a bit. Even as much crap that Facebook gets, like there's still hundreds of millions of people that are on it daily. So it's nice to have that reel function in order to get new people to your Facebook page, your Facebook groups. With Instagram, obviously, it's been one of those things that they kind of took on since TikTok became quite popular. But if you're using TikTok, it's really easy to see because I think everybody that's on TikTok, you're not usually on your following page. So it's all the people that you follow. There's those tabs on the top.
I don't even know that I'm not even sure I follow anybody on TikTok. Like I just go on and consume. Stuff. What's that?
Yeah. You just hit the like button for certain things. So
yeah. I mean, I don't even know that I actually have followed a lot of people on TikTok.
Yeah. So then essentially that's the For You page is essentially just new stuff that kind of, it notices what you're liking. So it kind of gives you things that you're generally tapping that like button. If you like girls dancing and you keep liking it, you're going to see more. If you start finding intellectual content, then chances are you're going to get more content about different things. So that's
even I want to tell people too, it's not just when you like posts either. TikTok and Instagram Reels and Facebook Reels are smart enough to know that it's like, if you're hovering essentially on a post, you don't have to like it, but if you're consuming the better part of the reel before you swipe up and go to the next reel, that is enough to give them an indication that you liked that content, or at least you're consuming that content. So that's going to trigger them to say, okay, what other content is like this content? Because this person seems to like, or at least consume, this type of content. That's one of the scary things, if you will, about, social media. And I was just having a conversation just this morning with somebody about this, and they were asking me about why they don't see certain content on social media and why they see others. And I'm like, it's completely evolving every single time you use it to feed up to you more and more of what you like. So that's where you get into that sounding board sort of element of social media, where, if you like a certain, political bent or whatever the case may be, you're going to find that every time you come onto Meta or TikTok, you're going to see a steady diet of that type of content, because they're going to say, okay, this is what this person seems to resonate with this person. So we're going to give them more and more. So the bad thing about that is you end up seeing sometimes where you're not even seeing differing viewpoints. You're seeing a steady diet of the same thing that you like. So, just be aware of that. But from a marketing standpoint, from a business owner standpoint, which is what we're here to talk about, the benefit of that is if somebody's really into cars, they love cars, and they're consuming a lot of content with regard to automotive things, and you have a TikTok which is related to you doing paint protection film on, a new, Jeep Wrangler 392 or something like that, and these people are really into that type of content, the likelihood is that person's going to see your content, even if they never have heard of your company or know anything about your page. If they really like to consume, in this situation, Jeep content, the likelihood is they're going to see that content because they've shown a propensity to like Jeep content. So that's where it really gives you the ability. I didn't mean to interrupt earlier, but it really gives you the ability to get in front of a lot of people and I've seen that happen with clients, to where we've hit on the right thing, and all of a sudden, hundreds of more people are following their page, and it's because hundreds of people are seeing their piece of content in that reel and have decided, okay, now they're actually following the page. Now they actually are somebody that's going to see your regular post. But as you're trying to build your brand or build your page, reels is a really good way to do that.
No, it's having a balance of both, I think, is key. You can't just focus on one specific thing, because then you kind of neglect the other side. But I was going to say, you nailed it with length of watch. I think that was one of the things, both Instagram and TikTok, when they had their new kind of guidelines to their top performers, the length of watch was something that's, and if you have a TikTok account, or I don't know if I can remember where it is on Instagram, if you hit that more data on one of your images, it kind of gives you a guideline of where people fall off. And for the most part, a lot of the TikTok top performers always say you have 3 seconds to hook somebody in, whether it's on Reels or TikTok. So it's one of those things, if you're going to record a message, don't sit there and be like you have to get into it, or just make sure you know how to edit it. And that kind of leads me to the next question.
Well, and by the way, I just want to say that couple second rule is good advice for any content.
Yeah.
Whether it's a regular Facebook post or Instagram, if you literally, when somebody's scrolling on their phone, there's been studies. I mean, social media, they do a lot of studies with regard to this. Meta calls it a thumb pause moment. That's actually the term they use. Because if you think about the way you scroll, when you get to something you want, rather than scroll, you'll stop the scroll by like touching with your thumb, and it stops the scroll essentially. So they view that as a thumb pause moment. So, when you're doing targeted advertising with Facebook, and you wonder, like, how do they get all this detailed demographic information and things like that? A lot of times you don't even have to like a page. And this sort of somebody sometimes gets freaked out and they're like, it's like my phone is listening to me. It's like, no, you're giving them information without you even being aware you're giving them information, because you don't even have to like, you don't have to click on a link, whatever. If you're just scrolling your Facebook feed and you just pause over a certain post, that's enough for Meta to register that caught this person's attention. And now they're going to within the big data that they operate on know that we're going to set, if I want to target somebody that likes that type of content, it allows me to put it in front of them. So whenever you're creating, back to my original point, whenever you're creating content, realize that you have about 2 to 3 seconds from the time your content enters the bottom of somebody's screen till the time that they scroll it out of the top of their screen. If you don't catch their attention with the visual, the first sentence of copy, whatever the case may be, if you don't do something to create that thumb pause moment, your content is going to be passed by.
Yeah. Even at like music and whatnot. And that kind of leads into what kind of video apps or what kind of video editing apps are out there. And kind of, I use typically two. I used, obviously, iMovie. I think a lot of people, if you have an iPhone, that's kind of like the standard one that kind of comes with it. Since I do a lot of video editing and stuff, I kind of know if I'm scrolling TikTok or Instagram, I'm like, oh, that was made with iMovie, just because I understand, I know, I recognize the text that's showing on there. The two that I use the most, and if you're in Instagram Reels or TikTok, you see CapCut a lot, and that's a free app.
Yep.
And you can have text on your screen of what you're saying. So essentially, I think if you're watching this after the fact, you can kind of see the text at the bottom of our screen. It kind of shows up like the subtitles. And so with this app, you can essentially record a video and have whatever text or whatever you're talking about will actually show up on the screen. And this is, I heard the stat, obviously I don't know if it's verified or sure, but like 70% of TikTok and Reels are watched on mute, whether it's because you've got a partner who's sleeping and you're kind of scrolling, or you got kids running around and you don't want them hearing your stuff. So you're just kind of taking in the content as you're swiping, and you can kind of pull those people in.
I'm guilty of that. Yeah. I'm absolutely guilty of that.
And so you can pull people in by having the text, so people can actually watch your video, hear what you're saying by reading it. And so that way you can get somebody to have that thumb pause, because they're going to say, oh, okay, I can watch this and understand what's going on in this video without having the audio on. So that's a big thing. Otherwise, transitions, just where to cut and edit the video. One that I use that's a paid app, because I like the different transitions and it has a lot of different templates, is Video Leap. And so they have a couple different ones, but with that one, you can essentially take 4 or 5 different clips, and it's essentially a kind of the swiping up feel of, ooh, I like this template of the way that this video is set up, that I can just plug and plop my videos into it, and then I can create a concept video with this. I've done this a few times with my son, like playing soccer. I saw like this kind of sportsy theme template, and I was like, oh, I like that. And so I just kind of plopped in video game plan, and it turned out like a really cool, nice little concept video. So it's kind of playing with these different apps and kind of what works for you. If you don't have a videographer and you just kind of want to film some, we're sticking with cars and stuff, you're like, I just tinted this Kia or this Lexus and I kind of want to get some sort of content, but I don't think this 2-minute video of me kind of going around the car is cool. But you can take that video, it'll take 7 or 8 seconds of it and kind of piece it all together. Then you have this nice 30-second video that you can use and put into a reel or put into a TikTok and kind of find ways to get those new people to kind of see your footage. So it's essentially, it's not really an AI tool, but it kind of falls in line with that it kind of creates something for you. And It's one of these tools that can easily be used.
By the way, too, I don't think some people don't realize that. Let's say you have a video where you're describing something and you're talking in the video and you want to use that as a reel. But if you understand Reels, you understand that the audio clip or the music clip that you choose can have a significant impact on how many people see your reel, because a lot of those audio clips are trending. And if you use that, your reel will get seen by more people. There is a way to attach an audio clip or a music to your clip. But then when you click on the actual music thing, it gives you the volume levels for each. And you could drop the volume level down on the audio or on the music and leave the volume up on your actual voice that's in the video, so that you're benefiting from actually attaching a trending piece of music, but you can't really hear the music. Or you can just drop the music down to really faint to where it's kind of playing in the background while you talk. But a lot of people aren't aware of that. how many people see your reel is there's a big impact based on what music that you choose. I mean, just as simple as what music you attach to it. So I think if you're not attaching music because you're like, this is an article where I want, or this is a post where I want to explain what I'm doing. Yeah, you could do that, but you need to attach music to every reel that you do, even if you drop the volume down on the music so that you really can't hear it. It's just going to allow your post to get in front of more people.
I'll say this would send me down a rabbit hole, but I've discovered something. I was watching somebody on TikTok about how to embed keywords into your video. So essentially, it's no different than having a trending music. It helps the SEO of your message that you're kind of putting out. So if you're doing something on marketing or SEO, it's essentially you return down, you write out all your keywords, and then you drop it to the bottom of your screen. So essentially those returns. So you don't have any words on the screen, but essentially that text is still embedded, and it helps with the SEO of that reel or TikTok. So it's one of those high level things. If you ever have questions, you can reach out to either one of us. That's finding these little things that are going to help you kind of grow your following. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's going to be a slow build. And I hear that from a lot of people. It's whether it's keywords on their SEO or whatever it might be. This marketing is a slow burn. So if you're not in for it, then if you're too impatient, it's one of those things you just have to realize that it's not going to happen overnight. It's doing a bunch of these baby steps to kind of keep building on top of each other for success to end up working.
It absolutely is a slow burn. I think that's a great way to describe it. And people often talk about like, well, what's the difference between like really focusing on organic results or doing paid results? And I say to them, in some ways you can get to the same place with organic or paid. It's just typically going to take you longer to get there with organic because you have to let things sort of build to a certain thing. So just using like Google AdWords, for an example, if you're doing proper SEO and you're optimizing your Google business page over a period of time, you're going to populate to the top of the relevant searches that you want. However, if you're a brand new business and you don't have time, you need to get the revenue flowing and you don't have time to wait for that. That's where you would utilize Google AdWords and say, hey, as of today, when I turn on my ads, I'm going to come up to the top of the page for these ads. So that's where you could utilize paid advertising to sort of shortcut that process to get you the results you want. And, to a certain degree, if you're already owning the top of the Google Map Packs or the top of, the organic results, you may start to feel like I could probably maybe back off of my AdWords a little bit because I already have good placement. So, usually, advertising money just allows you to accelerate the process. If you're creating, I was gonna use a word that I shouldn't probably use, but if you're creating junk content, no amount of money is going to make that junk content do well. Like, think about all your content. Like, you need to maximize the benefit or the amount of people that it's going to resonate with organically. Like, sometimes people use the money as a crutch and they put out mediocre content and then they just throw enough money at it and they'll get some results because they've thrown enough money at it. If you approach it a different way and say, I want to create the best content I can that can do well organically, or my goal is for it to do well organically, and then just use the money as an accelerant to that content, you're going to have better results because, again, no amount of money is going to make bad content or bad marketing work. I mean, the content you need to have, if you approach it like you're not going to spend any money and produce the best content you can, and then use the money as an accelerant, you're going to be way further ahead than just throwing money at bad content or bad strategy.
Yeah, we're close to the end, but we're going to kind of wrap up with this. It goes along with just what you were saying too. So say you've created this content, and it kind of goes with what we were talking about last week with kind of A/B testing. And I would say if you don't have the budget to put just money and throw it at something, that's something we've talked about before, is understand that you can create an audience, or if you're just starting off and you're going to boost a post. So I think if you're just boosting a post, you're going to get goals on Facebook. And how does that differ from the objectives if you have created an audience? And I know that's a whole nother thing too, or creating a campaign.
I mean, there's a couple different things that you need to keep in mind. Like, we almost exclusively act in ads manager. That's how we operate. And the first button you click when you want to create an ad is a little green button that says create. And the very first window that comes up is a window that says choose a campaign objective. And it offers you sales, leads, engagement, app promotion, traffic, and awareness. Those are the objectives that come up. And the very first thing you need to do is to decide what is actually your objective for the ad. If you want to drive people to your website, if your goal is to take people that are online and bring them over to your website, maybe capture their information with a pixel, maybe try to convert them on a landing page, whatever the case may be, you're probably going to choose a traffic objective. That means you're actually going to try to drive traffic to your website. If your goal is to do branding, like let's say in your town, you want to be omnipresent, like every time somebody's online, you want to be in front of them like a commercial on TV or something like that. You want the branding of your company to be out there, and you want to reach as many people as frequently as possible with the budget you have. You would want to choose an awareness campaign, because awareness is going to get you in front of a lot more people and a lot more frequently, but it may not drive the traffic back to your website. So it's more of a branding tool versus a conversion tool or a sales tool. You also have engagement, which means you're wanting people to engage with your posts. You want them to like it. You want them to share it. You want them that's kind of in between traffic and awareness, where you're going to reach more people, but you may not actually get them to click through to your website. Then you've got app promotion. You've got leads, where leads would be more like, I want them to convert. Like I want them to either call, or I want them to fill out, send me a DM on Messenger, or I want them to fill out a contact form within Facebook. I want them to convert. Like I'm willing to spend the money. My objective is conversions. That's a lead objective. So I think when you do an ad, I think the very first thing is deciding which one of these objectives you're trying to reach with this ad, and then build the ad appropriately. And the budget is going to play into account too. For example, most traffic ads, the minimum Meta would advise on running a traffic ad is $10 a day. So if you're like, hey, I only want to spend $5 a day, you may want to back that down to an engagement ad or an awareness ad, because you're not going to get as much traction as you want with a traffic ad, because you're just not putting enough money towards it. So, you really need to understand what you're doing. That's why I'm not a big fan of just hitting the boost button and putting dollars behind a post, because it doesn't give you as much control or as much visibility on, like, saying, hey, I really want to control who's seeing my content, what I actually want them to do. Because and I'm getting really long-winded here, but when you choose a traffic ad, what they're doing is they're using all the data they have in the algorithm to say, I'm going to show that ad to people that have shown a propensity to click through to a website. Like, not just view the content, not just like the content. Facebook is going to show that content to people that have demonstrated in the past more of a propensity to click through to a website. Or, so when you choose a traffic ad, you're literally pitching it to you're taking your audience that you've already built and subdividing it even further to say, I want to reach people that are more predisposed to click through to come to my website. Or a lead ad, you're showing it to people that have shown a predisposition in the past to make a phone call directly from the ad, fill out a contact form, shoot the DM, whatever the case may be. You're allowing the Facebook algorithm to guide that ad based on what you're saying you want it to do. It's a super critical thing when you're building ads to make sure you're choosing the right objective, or you may get results, but it's kind of like a shotgun approach and maybe hitting what you want, but you're scattering all of the shot everywhere. And you may hit a little bit of what you want, versus a rifle approach and saying, I want all of the effort, all of the money, all of the energy of this ad to go towards this specific objective and this specific audience, instead of just letting it fly everywhere. And I think that's where a boost ad, if it's not done properly, you can be really tactical with a boost ad. But unless you really dig into a boost ad, and really build it out properly, a lot of it is just going to be a scatter shot. You may get a little bit of results, but you're not going to get as many results as you may have been able to get with a properly built out ad. It takes a little bit more effort. It takes a little bit more understanding. But I think ultimately, if you want to get the maximum results for the budget you have, you need to be a little bit more savvy and a little bit more technical about how you do it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just looking at if you were to do a boost ad, I would say don't do just the automatic. I think that's, if you just kind of leave it up to Facebook, all Facebook wants to do is get more money. So if you try to figure out a way to utilize the boost ad where you actually have to put in some work, and even at a bare minimum, if you're just putting it at a geographical place, if you have a brick and mortar shop, like put a 5 or 10 mile an hour radius around where you are where your shop is. So instead of just saying, yeah, I'm going to put $30 or I'm going to put $200. I had one client was like, yeah, we're doing $500 a month. And I was like, are you doing an audience? Are you like, no, we just let Facebook do it. And I was like, oh, you could actually get way more customers for like a fifth of the cost if you actually kind of broke that down. So,
well, and understanding the market you're in as well, like, you know, Facebook defaults to certain radiuses and things like that. So say you're in Chicago, where you're from, where you live, a 15-mile radius may be like, people are like, you're crazy. I'm not driving. You know, I've lived in a lot of markets where 15 miles, when I lived in Southern California, people weren't driving 15 miles might be a 1 hour drive.
Yeah.
You know, so, you know, if in California, in Southern California, an appropriate radius might be 5 miles because people are like, they're typically not going to drive beyond 5 miles from where they're at to get a service or something like that. So you really have to be conscious of even your own market, because Facebook may default it to 25 miles. In Southern California, you might as well be in a different state if you're 25 miles away.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, it's really important you understand that and you make the choice for yourself. Because if you just, you know, I look at Boost as like the easy button. Yeah, it's easy to do and you may get some results, but what you don't maybe take into account is what you're leaving on the table. Like, you know, how many more results could you have gotten for that same budget if you would have been a little bit more tactical about how you built out the ad? Doesn't mean you won't get any results. And I've talked to a lot of people. They're like, oh, I hit the boost button and I get results. The question, the thing you may never know is how many more results for that $500. How many more results could you have gotten for that same $500?
Absolutely. Well, I think we should wrap up. We're a little bit over, but that's all right. I think people needed to hear a lot of the stuff that you just mentioned, and I think that's a good way to end it. So I will thank everybody, and I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. We're just starting to hit our stride with this. I know it's a little bit different format. Obviously, if you guys have questions, send them in to myself or Ronnie. We'd be happy to answer those during the broadcast. But we're still figuring out this new format, but I think what we really want to do each week is just bring you the latest on what's going on in the marketing world and give you guys a little bit of a snapshot. And we live it, breathe it, eat it every day. That's what we do. And we're trying to take what we look at each week and distill it down to a half an hour of useful information, because not all of you have got the amount of time we have to really dig into this on a daily or weekly basis. So our goal of this is to take that and to break it down into what we feel like could be useful or practical that you guys can then take out and utilize in your business. So hopefully we're reaching that objective. If you have any feedback, we'd love to hear it. And also, like I said, if you have any specific questions about something we haven't talked about, or even a follow-up to something we have talked about, just go ahead and put it in the comments or reach out to us directly. We'd be happy to answer that. And I appreciate you guys listening in. And again, we're going to continue to figure out this format and do it a little bit better for you guys each week. So I appreciate everybody that dropped in today and is going to be listening to this after the broadcast as well. The other thing I'd love to get feedback on, and I keep talking about different things and extending, if this is not a good time, if 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time is not a good time for you to be able to watch live and maybe ask questions, whatever, give us some feedback in the comments of what time works better. I used to do these Marketing Mondays first thing on a Monday. Is that a better time for everybody, or is in the afternoon a little bit better? And granted, we're trying to hit East Coast and West Coast, so we'd love some feedback on what time would work best for you, and also make a point to annotate what time zone you're in, because if you tell us 10 o'clock in the morning, we need to know whether you're Mountain Time, Central Time, Eastern Time, whatever. But we'd love feedback on what time might work better for you if you'd like to join us live. So I think I've talked about everything. It's extended it beyond where it needs to be, but
all right.
We'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Take care.